Hello, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. I've got a fun reading for tonight. We're gonna do a love reading, of course, because love is in the air. It's just so much fun. And, okay, I think I'm speaking to a divine feminine here who has a divine masculine on her mind. And she's very intrigued to know, what he is thinking about her right now. Alright, let's pull some cards and get into it. Oh, and when I say she or he, your divine feminine, divine masculine, it could be man or woman, two men, two women, it could be switched, but just for the sake of the reading to simplify things, but of course, as it suits you. Alright, we have the Knight of Wands. Ooh, okay, so I feel like there is some burning desire going on here. Definitely, I feel like one or both parties more likely has this very passionate desire for each other. And I feel like though there is something that is holding you up, as you can see, the horse is rearing back. There's something holding up this connection. And I feel like it's almost like this could be a fun part of it in a way too. It's almost like the passion burns stronger when you're apart, or when the connection is not necessarily consummated fully, right? Because I feel like once the connection is fully realized in the world, it's more like a sense of gentleness or peace. Certainly the passion will still be there, but it's less like this burning desire, where I think almost this state of being separated or not quite fully consummated is almost this, this feeling of pining and yearning that I think is the really fun part of the dynamic that is really adding a lot of enjoyment to it. Alright, then we have the Fool. Ooh, okay. You know what? I can't lie. I think this card corresponds to the divine masculine in this situation. That I think that he is acting like a little bit of a fool. I think that there is maybe a little bit of a blind spot, or it could just be that he is, just a little bit silly when it comes to this connection. Where I feel like, with something being held up in the connection, there is some element of hesitation or not wanting to take the leap of faith here. Where I feel like it's necessary that a leap of faith is taken for this connection to elevate to the next level. But I think the masculine is still held up on this ledge a little bit, where I feel like, maybe also the divine feminine shows up in this card a little bit, where she is just walking blindly off the ledge. She doesn't necessarily hesitate before it. She just goes straight off and takes that leap, whereas I feel like the masculine hasn't taken the leap yet. And I also get the sense, maybe in some ways, the divine feminine here is almost playing the fool a little bit, where there's this almost a sense of naivete, where I think the divine masculine might perceive you as being more naive, where in reality, I think the feminine knows exactly what's going on in the situation. She's actually very in control, almost like she is the one leading the dynamic in a way, but she's playing the fool in order to let the masculine think that he is the big strong man with the reins in this connection, right? And I feel like this is like a pleasurable part of the connection, is that one party feels in control, the feminine feels more in control, maybe from this intellectual side, or this knowledgeable side, but she gives up the reins of action to the man or the divine masculine. In a way, it's like this freeing up of both parties' energies, where the feminine doesn't need to take on the masculine burden of action, and the masculine doesn't need to take on the feminine burden of this understanding or intuition, I suppose. Although I think both parties are very intuitive in this connection, and I feel like that's what drew you together so strongly, is this maybe almost a natural intuition of understanding that you're right for each other, where maybe it wasn't something that was reasoned out so intellectually, but I think you are naturally drawn to each other by both having this sort of almost extra sensory sense. Alright, we have Strength. Ooh, and this card, I'm really getting Beauty and the Beast from this. And this is I think this is relating to the feminine and masculine, as you can see the feminine figure, and then the lion with the mane, of course, this is a male lion on the card. So I feel like it's almost like the feminine brings a new sort of gentle strength to the masculine, of almost what I'm getting is she grants him his humanity, kind of like Beauty and the Beast, where she returns to his side, and when she kisses him and then he transforms into a prince. That's really the sense I'm getting, is like she's, through her not being afraid of his beastly side, I get the sense that she is now, yeah, like letting him become a human, right? So I feel like, maybe with your masculine, there are people who are afraid of his beastly side, didn't want to see it, or it told him to hide it in some ways. And I feel like this almost reinforced the beast inside of him, of causing it to grow or become unsettled or angry. But I feel like you, as the divine feminine, understand that this beast is a side that needs to be expressed and also to be met with love and with courage. And I think that, as you can see, like when you just gently handle the beast, it then becomes this sweet, adorable, almost like this lion is now in this puppy like kind of demeanor. And I feel like this is something that definitely happens in your connection of, when you act lovingly towards the beastly side, with this gentle feminine strength, it brings out, a new, calm and friendly, affable side in your masculine. All right, we have the world here. So there is this feeling of kind of floating along. So yeah, I get the sense right now you're at this kind of point of eternity, in a sense, where, like, if you've seen that scene in Twilight where she's like, the camera's spinning around and it looks like she's in a microwave, I think that's kind of the feeling you're in right now, feminine, is like, it's almost like there's so many possibilities, or like you don't really know what's going to happen next, and it almost feels like you're outside the world in a way, like you're almost suspended in time, completely by yourself. Because I think what this connection caused in you is almost this kind of spiritual leveling up of like understanding, that you need to find new possibilities within yourself and within the world, in order to really fulfill your life's and your soul's purpose. Where I feel like maybe before this connection that wasn't so apparent to you. And I feel like upon meeting your masculine, it triggered something within you that almost filled you with a sense of urgency. And I think you maybe misplaced the sense of urgency on needing to get closer to the masculine, of like taking this relationship to the next level. And then this was maybe where you might have felt like you had to chase the masculine or take some action in order to make this relationship more real. But I think now what you're realizing is, like I mentioned, is this relationship has woken you up to new possibilities in yourself and in the world. And this is where you need to focus your attention, is kind of understanding, like, okay, what is this period of time of separation or isolation meant to teach me? And yeah, really leaning into that and trying to pick up a lot of knowledge in this time, because I feel like, as I mentioned, like this might be really fresh to you, but I think that as you work through it, you're starting to understand that this is actually a very rewarding and enlightening experience, where maybe there were some elements of suffering, of like, especially if you were really caught up in these feelings of romantic love for your masculine, it could have really felt like, yeah, this pining and yearning and suffering of like, why can't we be together? But I feel like as you lean into this energy, it's more like you're understanding, like, this is actually something that is teaching me so much, and there's so much to learn from this, and it's really like a big hurdle to tackle. And I think you're almost getting to the point where you're realizing, like, if there never was some sort of consummation of the romantic relationship between yourself and your masculine, it's almost like I think you would be okay with that, where this energy of what you have to learn from this yearning and pining, or whatever you want to call it, is actually so massive that it's almost like it can't be fully tackled in your lifetime. And I feel like you now understand that even if you were working at this energy for your whole life, you wouldn't fully be able to resolve it. So in that way, it's almost like maybe there's some part of you that doesn't necessarily want this relationship to be fully consummated in the 3D, because you understand that when that happens, it's almost like you'll lose some aspect of the energy that you're trying to learn from right now. But I think at the same time, you understand that if there is something that comes out of this relationship, then that would be a new way of learning, and you would learn new things about the concept of romantic love, or about the divine union and that sort of thing. So I feel like you're kind of in the state of like good with it or good without it. Like, if something happens, then lovely. I'm sure that would be a lot of fun. But I think you also understand that, like, if this relationship isn't meant to be in our 3D realm, then that's fine, because there's still so much to learn from it. And you're still so content with interrogating the possibilities within yourself and using this experience as kind of a springboard to meditate on the mystery of love. Wow, that's sweet. We have the moon. Oh, this is so cute because the dogs are howling at the moon together. I think that's so romantic. So I feel like maybe this was someone where either you met at night, or you might have spent a lot of time together at night, or you enjoy going for walks together in the evening. And I feel like there's this feeling of kinship between the two of you. Like you could just howl at the moon together. But at the same time, I think there's this kind of shadow approaching on this, with this lobster? Crayfish? I think I saw someone call it a crayfish online before. Like this kind of dark purple figure emerging from the water. So I feel like there is always this shadowy aspect of your connection as well, where like I think you met this masculine, and I think it might have been a love at first sight kind of feeling, or at least the feelings came on very quickly of really feeling engulfed in this passionate connection. But I think even from the beginning, there was this seed in you that knew that there was this darkness or sadness that was to come. Like I think maybe there was a part of you that knew that it wouldn't last. And I feel like this has come true in a sense in this current period that you're in now of a separation or feeling of isolation, where it's almost like your predictions came true in a sense. Like all those worst possibilities that you were imagining during this time period of bliss actually came true. And now that you're sitting in it, it's almost like this feeling of, like learning from that situation where like you couldn't fully be present in that moment of passion because you were always thinking about like, this is going to end soon, it's too good to be true. And these thoughts really ruled your mind to the point where maybe you were more engulfed in the thoughts than in the actual direct experience of this relationship. So I feel like what this was trying to show you is it was almost like a little bit of a test of like, okay, this was kind of the trial period, and now you're going to be cut off, and then it's going to be like, are you actually ready to invest in the full year-long subscription? And I feel like it's almost like because you had failed this trial period by being plagued with these feelings of doubt, that's almost why like the separation needed to emerge in order for you to realize like for this connection to actually prosper long term, these feelings of doubt need to be eliminated entirely. These feelings of distrust or imagining the worst situation are something that really need to be dealt with. And whether you believe in manifestation or not, at least you would understand that on a purely psychological level, that the expectations that you have for someone really influence their behavior. Like, I feel like if you're constantly thinking in a romantic relationship, like, this person is going to cheat on me, and, especially if you say that to someone of like, I think you're cheating on me, or I think you're going to cheat, I think there's a good likelihood that you're sabotaging the connection, and perhaps that this will in fact happen. But I think you're starting to understand that maybe to some degree, like, your thoughts do shape your reality, and at least your thoughts shape your relationships, even if you want to look at it from a fully psychological level with no magic, metaphysical woo-woo elements involved, that your thoughts about this person shaped the connection and how it developed. And I think you're starting to understand that the thoughts of distrust that you had towards them, even if they were never manifested verbally, like you never said that you don't trust this person, it was evident in some way, and it was holding back the connection in some way as well. So I think you're understanding that if you want to move forward in this connection, you need to fully release all these feelings of doubt and distrust, and understand that if this is really this type of divine union, that there is no place for conflict within it. Like, there is no conflict in a union, obviously. So you have to really work through all these feelings and understand that there is no separation in the sense that there are two people who could be at conflict with each other, right? Like, if you do truly believe that this is a divine union, then you understand that it's as if you are the same soul, and so that there could be no possibility of conflict. So it's not even about like, okay, I need to journal and write about how I have trust issues. It's this higher level understanding of like releasing the feeling of there being two separate entities working together, if that makes sense at all. This is a really difficult energy to work through. I feel like it's a little bit hard to put into words, but hopefully it's getting to the point a little bit. All right, we have the Knight of Cups. So there is this feeling of being delivered some sort of emotional message where I feel like, or like moving ahead with something emotionally, being presented a cup. So I feel like there is like an opportunity. Yeah, I think an opportunity is being presented to you in this relationship. Like I mentioned, it's like it's opening up so many new things inside of yourself. But I also think it's offering you an opportunity to pour into someone else's cup, where I think it's quite reasonable that you might have feelings of like maybe resentment or bitterness in some ways to how this connection has developed, especially if you're in this isolation period. I mean, it's only logical. You were having so much fun, and then all of a sudden things kind of dried up or fizzled out or were cut off kind of abruptly, and then it's almost like now I'm upset, I'm frustrated, and where can I channel these emotions into except the person who I think caused these emotions in me, which would be your divine masculine. And so you might be harboring or nurturing some feelings of resentment towards them, but really this is sabotaging the connection. Like really what you need to develop is these gentle feelings of compassion towards them, of just pouring into their cup in the same way that you would pour into yours or pour into anyone else's, where I feel like you did have a really strong level of compassion towards your masculine at the beginning of your connection, where it was almost as if you were able to just understand their motivations. Like I think almost, yeah, there was this level of like almost like a telepathy, or maybe you were like a little bit psychic, of like just understanding what they were going through and why they act the way that they did. And in this way, it's almost like not making excuses, but just a logical understanding of like, okay, I understand why. But I think that when the separation occurred, it caused quite a big hit to your ego. And then this caused your ego to well up in response as well. And then this sabotage these feelings of warm compassion, where like again, like I mentioned, like this compassion is not necessarily like, oh, I like them, I'm putting them on a pedestal, they're the best person ever. No, the compassion is a gentleness, like God loves his children, of like just an understanding, right? And I think you lost this understanding during this hit to your ego that ensued after the separation period began. Is like you again, like, yeah, you started to slip into this feelings of like blame, and which then led to separation. So in order to really get closer to this union again, you need to go back to cultivating that feeling of compassion and understanding, of, yeah, like not feeling any sense of antagonism. So I feel like if you were harboring some feelings of bitterness, and maybe you've been watching some tarot readings, that you need to understand that there is no necessarily a conflict between the two of you, right? If you're working towards union, then work towards union. Like don't be getting upset about like, okay, this person did something bad to me. Like no, at the end of the day, you are working together. Like this is like a collaborative effort of two bodies who share the same soul. All right, let's draw a few more cards. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune. Ooh, okay, so I feel like the wheels are turning a little bit in some ways, where it's interesting that we got both the World and the Wheel of Fortune, which are kind of like, yeah, it's development in the sense. It's yeah, again, like I mentioned, is like you were kind of in this floating period of like not understanding what's happening, and now I think you're starting to understand that the gears are turning. But it is also this slower process where it's not necessarily something you can rush, anticipate. This feeling of like the when and how is entirely irrelevant towards the work that you need to be doing at this present time. And I think the work that you need to be doing at this present time, as illuminated in these cards, is you can see the figures here are all reading their books floating in the heavens. So I think maybe reading some books that express a mystical tradition or have been written by people who have had a direct experience with the mystical, with the spiritual sort of side of things, in order to help you get in touch with that side of yourself and maybe present you with some ideas. Because sometimes there can be like a topic or a phrase in a spiritual text that really sticks with you, and that could be something that you could meditate over, or it could be something that you write about in your journals. And if you think about the concept of meditation, I think we're probably most familiar with like a Zen Buddhist meditation, but the term meditation is also used in many other spiritual practices, including Christianity, where meditation, it isn't always necessarily this feeling of just like sitting there and like, staring down the bridge of your nose or whatever, but it would also be like reading a text and then you meditate upon the text. So I feel like meditating upon a sacred text could be very valuable to you in this process. And as well as meditating on the mysteries of death as expressed in this card, and with the Sphinx up there, it's like, yeah, this feeling of like it's a riddle. This is a riddle for you to solve, essentially, and you kind of have to play a detective in the situation where, like, it's too straightforward to do just what they do in the romance movies, right? Like, if you're out there writing letters or whatever kind of nonsense, like, that's just not it. It's like going to be a little bit harder than that. There is a bit of a riddle that you have to solve, and I think it's really worth it to commit yourself to contemplating the mystery of love in this case. All right, the Ace of Wands. Ooh, it's so phallic. I get the sense that there might be some feelings of lust associated with this connection that I think might be making it a little bit hard for you to see clearly in. Where I need to turn this card over. I can't look at this. I feel like, yeah, maybe there was some element of your connection, like I talked about in the beginning of the reading, where there was this passionate aspect to it. And like I mentioned, in the separation period, part of your resentment might also come from the fact that like this passion is removed from you. And it almost feels like maybe there was this way of being in relation to masculine and feminine or sexuality, that it's almost made you feel like a little bit alienated from your sexuality, of this confusing feeling of like, I have no one to direct my feelings towards except this person who, yeah, it's just not necessarily flowing the way that it would logically make sense for me to direct these feelings towards. So then it's like I have no one to direct these feelings towards, and then it's just confusing and you don't really understand where you, like, it's a whole new way of approaching sexuality essentially. But I think this is emphasizing maybe something you already might have understood, or maybe you're just starting to understand, that sexual energy is in a sense the same thing as creative energy, or just energy in general, and that this feeling of passion or sexuality can be turned inwards or turned to other objectives, where, like I mentioned, maybe you had already understood that sexual energy could be used in this creative sense, so maybe you had channeled it into art or writing or music before. But I think now you're understanding a whole new way in which it can be channeled inward, and like it could be sometimes associated with this concept of kundalini, of like this energy with a coiled snake at the base of the spine that then ascends your spine and it opens up your third eye. I mean, I'm not too wise in this, and also a lot of this kundalini stuff is just stuff that was brought to the States in the last century, so it's not, but anyway, let's not get on a big digression about that. So I think there is this feeling of like you're understanding a new way of utilizing this energy, where I think in the past it was almost like I have no object to direct this towards, so now I'm meeting frustration, but now I think you're understanding whole new avenues to direct this energy towards. Ooh, the Five of Cups. Dang. I mean, that's pretty accurate, is it not? It's this feeling of just like, oh, mourning with this black shroud. That's just really sad. Of like grief, and the figure is looking back at these 3 cups that have spilled. But behind him are standing 2 cups that are still fully upright. So I get the sense that in the separation period, it's definitely this feeling of like, looking back to the past, and yeah, like spilled milk. It's like you're crying over spilled milk. But I think the guidance from this card is really like, don't forget about what is present right now and also what lies ahead. But don't try and imagine the future too much, because you can't predict the future. Just keep this warm openness in your heart of like, there is a future. You don't necessarily have to picture it in any direct sense. But I think what's very important right now is like consider what you have in the present. Like, you could be channeling this energy into ruminating about the past and just literally sit there paralyzed for hours, like I mentioned, like spinning in a microwave of just staring out the window and ruminating in it. Or you could be using this brilliant new energy that you have never experienced before in your life to motivate your studies and your spiritual journey and help you level up even further. Like, isn't this a wonderful opportunity for you to be using this energy? Because like I mentioned, like, I think that before you had this connection with your masculine, you had never felt this feeling before, ever. And this is a very important and special feeling, is it not? So should you not be directing it to something that could serve you in some way or open up some new possibility? If you're directing this energy to things that have happened in the past, or just imagined fantasies, you are just stagnating. So do not let this very precious energy stagnate. Put it towards where it is meant to be directed. And like I mentioned, this is meant to guide you on some sort of spiritual path. So continue following the path and taking the signs from your intuition of like where it leads you. Like, it's not necessarily like I can tell you exactly what text you need to read or what spiritual practice you need to do, whether this is some kundalini yoga or Zen meditation. Like, you need to understand that for yourself. That's the whole point of this journey that has been initiated for you, is for you to walk down your own unique path, this process of individuation in which you become your own unique person. And this is a path that is unlike anything that has ever been done before. Like, no person has tread this exact same path, although many people in history have walked a very similar path with, like I mentioned, this whole phenomenon of this divine feminine, divine masculine, whatever you want to call it, right? If you look through art through all of history and just these accounts of like romance and literature, and you have probably read 100 books and watched 100 movies that are expressing this exact same phenomenon that you're going through right now. But you can't simply recreate what happened in any of those works of art or historical accounts, because you're doing something entirely new. You need to write your own story for yourself, and this is the most important part of the journey, is understanding that it's something you have to do for yourself. And no one can tell you or instruct you exactly what you need to do, even if there is this kind of distressing feeling of like, I don't know what to do. That's the point, to get in touch with your intuition so that you feel guided, you feel the messages of your soul coming down to lead you. Alright, I feel like we've delivered quite a lot of messages in this video. Maybe we'll draw one more card and wrap things up. Okay, we got the Tower here. Yeah, a tower has fallen, and this is the tower of all preconceived notions. Is like, if you think of the Tower of Babel, this feeling of there just being an infinite amount of texts and like just every book in the world, right? You could read every book in the world and it would not help you, it would not solve this journey for you, right? So you need to burn the whole tower down to the ground and understand that this whole journey is about direct experience. And like I mentioned, there are some texts of like people who have had direct experiences with the spiritual side of things, or whatever you want to call it, with their soul. This can kind of guide you down the right path, and certainly this is better than sitting there ruminating about your person who's on your mind. But at the end of the day, your direct experience is going to be something completely different. The story and the path and the way in which you reach your direct experience is going to be something completely different. So you can't be looking to any sort of dogma or any sort of spiritual teacher, any sort of YouTuber about how to go through this process. It's something that is so unique to you that there is no guide, there is no place you can go that is going to fix this for you. And you need to really burn up everything you have ever thought, heard, been told about the concept of love or a romantic relationship, and just immolate it. And like I mentioned, there are some things that could inspire you, and it could be very beautiful and help you kind of meditate on the mystery of love. But when it comes to these practical considerations of like, you should do this forget that entirely, because that is not going to work for you, and it's only going to sabotage things for you. Like I mentioned, this whole process is about discovering your own power, your own intuition, your own path. So as long as you are deferring to other people's knowledge, wisdom, or feeling like other people know better than you about the situation, you're only sabotaging the connection more and depriving yourself of this lovely experience of divine union that is waiting for you. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this video or got something out of it. It was a very fun one to do, of course. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.